tapestry, sadinim amatsuyarim, embroidery, or v'tolaboy agoizim, walnuts, afarskin, peaches, shkedim is almonds, rimoinim is pomegranates, pachili anavim, grapes, atare shel shibol, we put on wheat, yeinois, shmonim, v'siltais, wine, oil, and flour. We'll soon see why these are chosen, but he put up these different no'i sukkah. Zokti Gemara, Asa listapik mehen ad moitza yontav ha'achron shel chag. You're not allowed to use it until after Simchas Torah. Any no'i sukkah that was on a kosher sukkah is asa to use the entire yontav, including Simchas Torah. Now we see that the no'i sukkah has dinim. It's asa to use. But we don't see a reason why you put up no'i sukkah. But if you look at the Mari Vayel and Shuvas, Kuf Tzadik Aleph, he's a Talmud of the Maril, Mitzvah and Ha'oisa, Dichsif Teishu Ke'ein Teduru. So he does say that the concept is rooted in Ke'ein Teduru. But I saw Rabbi Yosef Engel in Gayoni Hashas and Sukkah Daf Yud, V'tzarachi and Dechiv HaNoi Havi K'moi B'chol Mitzvahs Mishum Zeh Keli V'anveyu. Why does he stress Ke'ein Teduru? Why isn't it the regular din of Hiddur Mitzvah? But I think really it's not a kasha because it's both true. Why do we put up No'i Sukkah? We don't put up No'i Shaifa. We don't have streamers hanging from the tzitzis that we wear. The answer is because the Sukkah has to be like the house. And a house, you have things to beautify it. You have to beautify the Sukkah. But when you do put up No'i Sukkah, what is the mitzvah? The mitzvah is Akeli V'anveyu. And the emphasis is very clear like this. Mari Vayel, after he says mitzvah and No'isa came to do, he says, therefore don't bring pots into the Sukkah. Now the Issa bringing pots into the Sukkah is not Zakeli V'anveyu. That's the Tzuras HaMitzvah. But the point is, No'i Sukkah is to enhance the Yeshivas HaSukkah. But the mitzvah is the regular Zakeli V'anveyu. And you see this clear. The Rashba, in Chelik Aleph, Simon Hein, the Chuvas was asked, the Mishnah says if you take a nice embroidery and put it next to under the schach, you're allowed to sit under No'i Sukkah. The halacha is you're allowed to sit under No'i Sukkah as long as it's within dalet tvachim of the schach. So the shoyel thought that the pshat is that since No'i Sukkah is important, it becomes like the schach. So the shoyel says, but you're not allowed to use schach sheet. Sheet is possible for schach. Zakti Rashba, no, you're making a mistake. It doesn't become part of the schach. But since it's there, tis'arev alav dirasai, to make your yeshiva sukkah more enjoyable, lahanis lesnais lahanim alav yeshiva sukkah the mitzvah. V'loy oichel a mitzvah min hamuvcha lahaleis sham kli hanoyim l'chabev es ha-mitzvah v'shtehei dirasai areva. You have to make it a pleasurable experience. Don't forget, the Gemara says, Dira na is one of those things that a marchiv daiti shalada. I saw a beautiful lush in the Sefer Seder Hayoim. He says a different maila in No'i Sukkah. He says, Medagtikim, try to make the Sukkah nice like all mitzvahs. Sheyasa Adam Sameach v'toiv leiv lischais b'asiyasai. And that's really what the pasuk says. Tachas ashlei varatas Hashem alekecha b'simcha. You have to do mitzvahs b'simcha. So it definitely seems that there is an inyan of sukkah to make the sukkah yeshiva sukkah more enjoyable, but it is really a kiyah mitzvah of zakeli ve'anveyu. But before we apply this more lamaisa, we have to learn a different gemara, and that's actually the gemara in Sukkah Daf Tes. Minayin la'atzei sukkah she'asurim kol shiva. How do you know you're not allowed to take the schach off the sukkah and use it for personal use? Talmud Laim b'chaga sukkah shivas yamim l'Hashem. The pasuk, which is the mitzvah of sukkah, says you should make sukkah shivas yamim l'Hashem. So the Gemara says something incredible. Just like a korban, chal shem shemayim ala chagiga, kach chal shem shemayim ala sukkah. Machag l'Hashem, av sukkah l'Hashem. What the Gemara is saying in no uncertain terms is there's a kedushas sukkah that actually makes the sukkah asa bahana. Now, of course, you're allowed to, you're mechuyev to sit in the sukkah. But to take off the schach and use it for personal use, Tosfos says, and that's the sheet of most Rishonim, is an issa deraisa. To take schach and use it at home for non-sukkah purposes is an issa deraisa, because chal shem shemayim ala sukkah. In fact, the Reishis Chacham in Shar Kedusha Perik Yudalid, ki mitzvah sukkah kedushasa gedoyla. The sukkah is very heilig. V'ha'ed, and the raya, she'atzei sukkah chal aleim kedusha kol shiva. Don't forget, there's an issa hana from a sukkah. I saw the Chavas Yar in a beautiful tshuva in Siman Reish Hey. He tries to figure out when is there a p'tur of zaken ve'ein la fil chvayda. It's inappropriate for Talmid Chacham to do this, and sometimes you do what you have to do. Lamashli, he says, David HaMelech danced wildly in front of the Aron HaKodesh. It's not lefi cover of a melech. So zok the Chavas Yar, no. When you're dealing with dvarim shebekadusha like an Aron HaKodesh, then there's no limitation. Even the biggest melech has to lower himself, quote unquote, for kedusha. And then he says, now I understand. Listen to his sushtel. Now I understand why even great Talmid Chachamim personally built the sukkah walls. And the sukkah, it's inappropriate for Talmid Chacham to build a house. But since the kedusha sukkah is chal shem shemayim, even a Talmid Chacham could do it. How could we not mention the Mishtabur and Tafresh Lam Betesiv Cotton Bays? He quotes from a Shloah Kodesh, since the Kedusha Sukkah Gedoyle Ma'oid, make sure to speak only properly in the Sukkah. No Lashon Hara, no Rechiles, Dvarim Shepe Kedusha should be spoken. If you like a nice remez, I saw that the Sukkah is a Gematria 91, which is exactly the Gematria of the two Shem Hashem of Adnos and Havaya. Adnos and Havaya is 91, just like Sukkah is 91. You know, we once spoke about this. If someone's stuck, he has no sukkah, and he wants to dafka sit in the sukkah, not to eat out of the sukkah. So we spoke about the concept which rather works. If you have the right material, you could open up, if you have a 4-door car, that is today, that's becoming a rarity, but if you have a 4-door car, you open up 2 adjacent doors, see the right side of the sukkah, and you put schach on top of the doors of the car, and then you use the doif and akuma from the other side of the car, and as long as no one's looking, you sit down under the schach in on the floor of the street, in the doors of the car, if you have the right schach, and you could pashtus make a bracha on that sukkah. The problem is not with the sukkah b'shas ma'isa. The real shaila is how could you then, after you finish eating, close the car and drive off? Once it became a sukkah, it's asabana kol shiva. So the answer is, since you made it on Chayla Moyed and you made it tonight because you know you're going to drive off, so maybe it's not Osabano, it's like you made it tonight, so that's a different share. But the truth has to be told that this Issa of having Anah from Sukkah is an Issa deraisa. I saw the Rav Pa'olim and Gimel Mem Gimel has a shayla. Let's say a person he put up Noi Sukkah. He put up an apple, and the apple fell into a basket of other apples. He doesn't know which is the Noi Sukkah. So we would say, Yavesh biyavesh, Chad b'trei is bottle. Says the Rav Palam, no. Since it's Yeshle Matirin, because you have the sukkah is going to be muta, the entire basket of apples is also. The issa of enjoying the sukkah for non-sukkah purposes is a very serious issa. And the emes you'll see that b'chush in Tafresh Lamed Ches, Sif Aleph, the Mechaber devotes the halachas of using the sukkah, the schach, and Sif Beis, he devotes an entire Sif, using Noy Sukkah, because Noy Sukkah is part of the Sukkah. Okay, I must mention that according to most Rishonim, Taisus and Shabbos, Chav Beis, the Ran and Beya, Chasam Seif and Kuf Peidal will soon see says this clearly, that there's a chilik. The Noy Sukkah is also Bahana Midaraisa, because Al Shem Aschach Kari Sukkah. That's the Ikka Sukkah. Noy Sukkah is an Issa D'Rabbanan, but it's still very awesome. So therefore, the Maisa, we should say that Noy Sukkah is a very important part of the Sukkah. It's also Chal Shem Shemayim on the Noy Sukkah. Again, if you like a remez, you look in the Balaturim in Parashas Re'ei, Tezayin, Yud Gimel, Chag HaSukkah's Tasa L'cha, ba'asvacham migarnchem yikvecha, remez l'noy sukkah, itra bishvalim, and he quotes our Gemara. So there's a remez in the Torah to noy sukkah, and one final point, the Shlach Kodesh in Sukkah, Ner Mitzvah, Oiz Daled, says the importance of noy sukkah, and he concludes, v'chal amarbe, hareze meshubach. So now we understand. By other mitzvahs, there's no din of noi shofar to put up ornaments on the shofar. But sukkah, since sukkah has to be teishu kein teduru, in the house you make ornaments, that's why the sukkah also has noi sukkah. I rather saw the Avinez in a Sefer Nois Desha has a different cheshbon why sukkah has more of a focus of noi. It's the Dov Nifla. Because on the pasuk Zekeli v'Anveyu, where you learn hidden mitzvah, the Targum teaches va'avnei lei migdashai, you build the Beis Hamikdash, and he shows that the sukkah is very similar to Beis Hamikdash. V'hi b'shalom sukkah. So he says, oy bazoi, when you look at the sukkah, you should see the Beis Hamikdash. So the sukkah has a mila over other mitzvahs. It also represents Beis Hamikdash, and that's why Yidden, perhaps Niba v'loi Niba, they show a special ahava for the sukkah. It also represents the Beis Hamikdash, and that's why there's noy sukkah. But now that we see the importance of noy sukkah, let's apply it to the numerous questions. I think the most commonly asked question is, the noy sukkah fell down. Whether it fell down on Shabbos, Yom Tov, Chol HaMoed, are you allowed to move it? Are you allowed to reattach it? So there's nothing to talk about. Since we just saw that Noy Sukkah are also to have Hana, at least in Issa D'Rabbanan, it comes out that Noy Sukkah should be Muktzah. After all, just like Basa B'chalav, it's just like Basa B'chalav that's Asa B'Hana. On Shabbos is Muktzah, you can't use it, it's not functional. It makes sense that Noy Sukkah on Shabbos or Yom Tov are Muktzah. And indeed, the Ramah by us, Tafresh Lamed Ches Beis, Uve Yom Tov v'Shabbos Asa L'Taltalam the Muktzim Heim. If Noy Sukkah fall off, you're not allowed to move them. You'll say, but it fell on the table, and the Tzarech Mekaymoy, I have to move the Noy Sukkah. I can't eat, there's no place to eat. The answer is you're making a mistake. When is there a hetel Tzarech Gufa Mekaymoy? That's if it's a Klisha Malachte L'Issa. If you mistakenly left the hammer on the table Erev Yom Tov, you're allowed to move the hammer. But Noy Sukkah, since they're Asa because they are Asa Bahana, so it's Muktzah Machmas Gufay. And even the Tzarech Gufa Mekaymoy Zok the Rav in Sif Vav and Chayodim in Samach Vav Yud Gimel, since it's Asa Machmas Gufay, it's Asa to move the Noy Sukkah even L'Tzarech Gufay or Mekaymoy. Now, there is a question, someone asked me once, but if the Noy Sukkah laying on the floor, isn't that a bezoyin? Don't forget, there's a Kedusha of a Noy Sukkah, so isn't it a bezoyin? So I told him, you're right, but moving Muktzah on Shabbos or Yom Tov is a bigger bezoyin. So you have to leave it. You want to cover it over, you can cover it over. More of a shayla when you have Noy Sukkah that has Divrei Torah, has Psukim or Divrei Torah on it. So this is really part of a different sugya, but the question is, if you see on Shabbos, there's a page of a sefer on the floor. Now, we're assuming that a page of a sefer that's not useful is muktzah. We call it shemus. It should be in the shemus, but now it's on the floor. Can you pick up a piece of a sefer that's on the floor, which is muktzah, but maybe the fact that there's Dvarim Shebekadusha, Kisvei HaKodesh on the floor, maybe that justifies moving muktzah. So I'll tell you what I found, and you do what you want. In the Sefer Shalma Yehuda Aleph Dalet, he quotes Rav Elyashiv and Rabbi Yamin Zilba that you're allowed to pick up muktzah, that's Kisvei HaKodesh, to prevent further bizoyin for Dvarim Shebekadusha. Then I saw the Orchas Rabbeinu in Aleph Kuf Samach Tes. Chaim Kanievsky is quoted that he was once walking with his father, the Stipler, and they saw shemus on the floor, which was muktzah. So the Stipler says, pick it up. But when they got home, they asked the Heilige Chazon Ish, who was Chaim's uncle, did they do right or not? So the Chazon Ish said, no, you did wrong. Because Enechanam, it's a bezoyin, but you can't pick up muktzah for that. And then I saw in the Nittei Gavriel, in Noy Sukkah, Siv Chav Dalet, he brings a very good raya from Shin Nun Beis Aleph and Hilchos Erevin, that even if there are Kisvei HaKodesh, it's not matter to do an Issa to prevent bezoyin. So it's not so clear that for a bezoyin you're allowed to be oiv on issa of muktzah. But the emes is there are other options that would avoid moving muktzah biyadayim. There is a very big sugya, but to make a long story short, we paskin that tiltal begufay, moving muktzah with any part of your body besides the hands, are mutter. So if there is muktzah on the floor, and you don't want to pick it up, if you move it respectfully with your foot to the side, or onto something else, tiltal begufay is mutter. Moving with your teeth is also tiltal begufay. My children love when they have a challenging muktzah, they jump on the floor, they pick it up, they carry these heavy things. That's correct. You're allowed to move tiltal begufay, even the tzorech dava asa. So if there's noya on the floor and you don't want it to get ruined, you can't pick it up. You can't move it tiltal min atzad tzorech dava muktzah. But you can pick it up tiltal with your teeth, kick it with your foot. Tiltal begufay is an option. Okay, there's a shaila if you use a broom and a shovel, if that's mutter. Because Enechanami, the Taz says you're allowed to move muktzah with a stick. That's called like tilta min atzad. Of course, a heta stick, not a muktzah stick. But that's only if you're doing it l'tzoyrech dava hamutter. To move muktzah with a broom and a shovel, and you're doing it just to save the muktzah, is tilta min atzad l'tzoyrech dava asa. But if you're doing it that it shouldn't come to bezoyin, you're doing it for a different purpose, not for the tzarech muktzah, there might be a heta to move the muktzah with a broom, and then you will prevent the bezoyin. If the noy sukkah could cause hezik, someone will trip on it, then we have the Ramah and Shin Ches Vav. If you have broken pieces of muktzah, you're allowed to move it biyadayim to prevent hezik. So anytime that noy sukkah is in a dangerous situation, avad you're allowed to move the noy sukkah. Someone asked a very good question. He puts lights, decorative lights, on the wall, on the door of his sukkah. Okay. Then he declared on Yom Tiv, are you allowed to open the door? Because we know that lights are muktzah, machmas, gufay. It's like eish. So every time he opens and closes the door, he's moving muktzah. So the truth is, you don't have to ask from lights. Any noy sukkah is muktzah. So how could you put noy sukkah on the door? You're moving muktzah. But you have a better kasha. Once you're asking, ask a better question. How could you open the door? You put the lights or the noy on the door, so let the door become a basis to the muktzah. So that problem of buses is not really troubling, because the paiskim say a basis is that the base is bottle to what it supports. L'mashal, you have a table for your lamp. The table is there to hold up the lamp. That's a basis. But no one's going to say you put up a door and a sukkah to hold up a light. The door and the sukkah is for the sukkah. The light is for the sukkah. But you don't say that the door is a basis for the noy sukkah. So the ikka is the door to mishamish the house. And the paiskim say this. I'll give you an example. They hung up a pocketbook on the door of a closet. And let's say they put a bikavana. But it's not a basis. A door is a basis to the room or to the closet. The same thing, you have muktzah, frozen meat on a freezer door, on the shelf of a freezer door. It doesn't become a basis to the meat because the door of a freezer is there to service the freezer. So it's not a basis to the light or to the muktzah. The problem is, maybe l'chatchila you shouldn't put it on the door because you're moving muktzah every time you open the door. And the halacha is you're supposed to tilt them, and atzad is only mutter when you can't shake it off. So maybe you shouldn't put it on muktzah on the door. But the answer has to be that you want to have noy. And you can shake it off. Whenever you can shake it off, you're allowed to open the door and close the door. Tiltel min atzad l'tzoyrech dava hamut. Next question. If noy sukkah fell on the table on Yom Tiv, not Shabbos. Till now we spoke about Shabbos. Are you allowed to move noy sukkah on Yom Tiv? Tomorrow, Tuesday, Aboleinu l'toiva. So it's interesting. In Halacha, Hilchas Muktzah, Yontiv is usually more chama than Shabbos. But is Zicha not better? Yet, if you look in the Bahag, the Lashon is Nafla b'Yomtiv Asurim B'Achila. If the noy sukkah fell off on Yomtiv, you had an apple and it fell off, you can't eat the apple because it's asa kol shiva, umutarim letaltalam, you're allowed to move it. Freg de Beis Yosef and how was Simon, I don't get it. Since when is muktzah on Yom Tiv mutter? Zokte El Yerabba, quoting a Tfer Shmuel in Sukkah, Aleph Tes, a Maridik Gevard. Just like you're allowed to cook and bake and shech l'tzarech eichel nefesh, Zokte Shulchan Aruch in the end of Simon Tov Kuf Tes, you're allowed to move muktzah l'tzarech eichel nefesh. An example, if you have stones that are blocking food, stones are muktzah, machmas gufay. There's no heta l'tzarech gufay, l'tzarech mekaymay, but since it's blocking food, you're allowed to move muktzah for eichel nefesh. I'll give you an example that's unavoidable for every Yom Tov Sheni. The husband prepares the neiris on the second night. This year it's going to be Monday night. For neiris on Monday night. What do you first do before you put the neiris? You take away all the burnt out wicks and the leftover oil if you use olive oil. Matches that are burnt out. How could you move muktzah on Yom Tov? Burnt out candles are muktzah. So Rabbi Kiva Eiga, in the end of Tov Kuf Aleph, says, Enechanami, it's muktzah. But neiros Yom Tiv are a form of oichel nefesh, it's oinik Yom Tiv, you're allowed to move muktzah tzarech oichel nefesh. So moving burnt out wicks and candles on Yom Tiv is mutal tzarech nefesh. So Zokti Tferes Shmuel, the Bahag is talking that the noise sukkah fell on the table. And you have, typically in those days, a very small sukkah. And you can't eat on the table because the noise sukkah is blocking. So in that specific case, you're allowed to move muktzah on Yom Tov. Shabbos, there's no het of oichel nefesh for muktzah. But Yom Tov, you're allowed to move the noise sukkah als oichel nefesh on Yom Tov. Azoi zokt the Tver Shmuel. Now the truth is, it's a little of a doichik because the lashon of the Bahag is mutar mataltlam on Yom Tov. Doesn't make a chilik when not. And the Halacha is not so excited, but he says if the noise sukkah fell on the table on Yom Tov, if there's no other choice, you can't eat, you're allowed to move the noise sukkah. So let's be clear. If you have noise sukkah on Shabbos, you can't move it. Noise sukkah on Yom Tov, if it blocks the eating, if it blocks oichel nefesh, you're allowed to move the noise sukkah. A more practical eitzah would simply be to tilt the table. That's tiltul min hatzad. Then the noi goes falling off the table. Hopefully it won't be a bazayin, but this way you're not moving it biyadayim, and then you don't have to come on to a heta. But if it comes to a situation, he mamish can't eat on the table, this noi is sukkah on the table, Shabbos you would have to find Yom Tiv, there's a heta of moving muktzah als oichel nefesh. Now, this is all Shabbos or Yom Tiv. The next question is moving noy sukkah on Chol HaMoed. So you're wondering, what's the shayla? Enechanami noy sukkah is asa b'hana, but why should it be muktzah? There's no issa muktzah on Chol HaMoed. And indeed, Ramei Arik in the Minchas Pitim in Tov Reish Lamed Ches and Archayim says just that. You're now allowed to have enough of noy sukkah on Chol HaMoed, but there's no issa muktzah. So in other words, it comes out a very important chiluk. Noy sukkah falls on Shabbos or Yom Tov, you have to leave it there. And you can't put it back naturally. Noy sukkah fall off on Chol HaMoed, not only you're allowed to move it, but you're allowed to actually reattach it. Why not? There's no issa muktzah on Chol HaMoed. Grada the El Rabbah and Sifkat and Vav says only if it fell off, then is it mutter to move. But when the noise sukkah is still attached, you're now allowed to move it. But Zokte B'Kurei Yankov Sifkat and Yonalav, what's the chiluk? You're not allowed to use it. But moving noise sukkah on Chol HaMoed is mutter. It's only on Shabbos or Yom Tov that it's mutter. Now, why do people say you're not allowed to move noise sukkah on Chol HaMoed? I think the answer is they didn't learn Shulchan Aruch. But there's an issa of hishtamshus, using noise sukkah on Chol HaMoed. That's awesome. But to move it, to reattach it, is no problem. The next question is a commonly asked question. The noise sukkah fell down. It's Chol HaMoed. It's a big hassle to put it back. I'd rather put it in the box for next year. But that's not so pashut. Because one of the halachas of Noyis Sukkah is you're not allowed to take Noyis Sukkah off, because that's a form of bezayin. You're demoting the Noyis Sukkah. And now it's on the wall, it's Kodesh Hashem, you're taking it off, you're making it Ois Noyis Sukkah. So there's no doubt about it, removing Noyis Sukkah is asa for the days of Yom Tov, including Chol HaMoed. That's the issa of Sukkah Hashem. It's Chal Hashem Shemayim on Noyis Sukkah. But maybe we'll say the following: taking it off is a bezayin. Once it fell off, it's Ois Noyis Sukkah. Who said you're mechuyev to go and reattach it? So you say, it's about to rain anyhow. Let me just put it aside. Maybe the issa is removing it. Once it fell off, who said there's a chiyuv to replace it? And I saw the Sefer Sukkah Shalom Chav Zayim Sivkat Mem Aleph. He points to Agoyis Maimoni in the end of Perek Vav. He says, if the Noyis Sukkah fall off, don't use it. Either put it back or put it away for next year. So the Agoyis Maimon already says beferish that you're not allowed to take off Noyis Sukkah on Chol HaMoed. But once it fell off, you can't use it, but you don't have to put it back. And I saw the Mekadosh Yisrael and Kuf Yudalid says that's also Mucha from the Bir Agros Yivkot and Ches. So we have an interesting chiddush. The take off Noyis Sukkah is a problem. But once it fell off, you're allowed to move it on Chol HaMoed, you're allowed to put it away on Chol HaMoed, but just you can't use it for personal use. Now, the next question is a common question if for those that go the first days to one set of grandparents and they go to the other grandparents the second days. The question is, can I take off Noyis Sukkah from one Sukkah to put it on the other Sukkah? So that already is a problem because you're taking off Mamish Noyis Sukkah. But then again, what's the Issa? Bezayin. That's not a Bezayin. Just like we paskim yikidin, madlikin, ner chanukah ner l'ner, as long as you're putting it to a different mitzvah, you're not demoting it. So, halacha, if you put up sukkahs in one sukkah and you want to take it off for a different sukkah, that should not be a problem. The next group of questions is as far as what can be used for Noyis Sukkah. So, the truth is, someone asked a very good question. I never saw in someone's house pomegranates hanging from the dining room, or flour, or oil. What kind of Noyis Sukkah is this? So it's a good question until you learn the Gemara. The Gemara gives us a list of Noyis Sukkah. Pomegranates, almonds, walnuts. I don't believe in those days they had, designed pomegranates hanging from a chandelier. The teretz is like the Rashba says, Sukkah is Lahanim Yeshivasa. Noyis Sukkah is to beautify the Sukkah. What you have in your dining room, that's for a whole year. But Sukkah is a Dira Sarai. It has a different sense of decorations. And Rav Moshe Taka was asked in the Chuvas Chelik Hey, Siman Lamed Tes Yivkot and Vav, Mamash this question. What kind of Noyis Sukkah is that? Putting up all these funny things. So Rav Moshe says that basically, Ke'en Teduru is really on the yeshiva sukkah, not how to build the sukkah. It's what you do in the sukkah, when you have to sit in the sukkah. As long as it beautifies the sukkah, it doesn't make a chiluk if you don't do it in your own house. So the Noyis Sukkah that we have is interesting. All these interesting designs, I guess, is more contemporary. But if you know people that follow minhagim, many people are makbid to have oil, flour, honey, shivas haminin. Those are based in our Gemara. Gemara mentions many of those. Some tzaddikim were very makbid to have birds, design of birds in the sukkah. But whatever you do, the ikki is like the Seid Hayoim says, it brings simcha to the sukkah. In fact, there's an interesting discussion in the Poskim. There was a minig Yerushalayim to take the paroiches from the Arna Kodesh, probably a used one, but the actual paroiches, and hang it up in the sukkah. So the Har Tzvi, in the end of Siman Pei Beis, the Chuvas wonders, how can you do that? The Halacha in Kufman Dalet Sif Yud is that paroiches is considered Tashmishay Kedusha. It's Mishamash Sefer Torah. Sukkah is only a mitzvah. How could you do that? But I did see the Chazon Evadia in Amar Ayin Dalet says the minig was to do it because Sukkah is also Kedusha. Ma'achag l'Hashem, af Sukkah l'Hashem. Okay, I don't think anybody uses paraychis, but the sukkah has a special kedusha to it. I once went into a sukkah and I saw these sports, the baseball teams in the sukkah. Now, maybe that's ke'ein to do for them, but that's inappropriate for a sukkah. It has to have the kedusha of sukkah Hashem. What's interesting, the Sefer Chassidim, one of the Rishonim, in Siman Reish Samach Gimel, has the following story. They saw someone did not have nois sukkah, and they asked him, "Where's your nois sukkah?" So he told them, "What am I gaining putting up nois sukkah? The children will come, will detach, will cut the string, take off the nois sukkah, the peiros, and eat them. So mutav shlayechtu al yadi. By me putting up nois sukkah, I'm going to cause the children to do an aveira. So therefore, I don't put up nois sukkah." So agav, you see from the Sefer Chassidim that the minig across the board was to put up nois sukkah. If you saw someone didn't have nois sukkah, you had a question: where's your nois sukkah? It wasn't just done by some; it was the universal minig. So much so that if you don't have it, they ask, "Where's your nois sukkah?" But you also see an interesting thing: that if nois sukkah leads to an issa, better don't do it. The question is, which issa is it leading to? Zok the Magen Avram, Sif Cotton Dalid. It says the Pharaoh, you're going to eat the nois sukkah. Now, what's wrong with eating nois sukkah? It's a simchas yom tiv. Pharaoh says, no. Chag Lashem, af sukkah Lashem. There's an issa, at least midrabanan, of eating a pomegranate that's hanging in the sukkah. Zok the El Yerabba, and the Bikurai Yankov says there's another issa. Cutting off or untying a knot on Shabbos or Yom Tiv is an issa. So we have two problems with this nois sukkah. What's the nafkamina? I'll tell you two beautiful nafkaminas. The Magen Avram says the problem is eating, and therefore make it tanai. Any baidel kol shim. I don't want to become asa. Oh, that tanai would help if the problem is you might come to eat it. So once you made it tanai, you're allowed to eat it. But if the issa is hilchas Shabbos, you're not a balabas on hilchas Shabbos to make it tanai. Even though grad, if you make him tonight that I'm going to untie it, maybe it's not a keshel kayama. But at least we understand that if the issa is don't eat it and you made it tonight, then there is a heta to eat it. Now the halachas of tonight, hope to do a different share, but once you made it tonight, la halach you're allowed to eat the nois sukkah. But I was thinking, a pashta nafkamina, if you hang up nois sukkah on Chol HaMoed in Eretz Yisrael, when there's no Shabbos Chol HaMoed. So it's not shaykh to come to an issa on Yom Tiv or Shabbos. So there's no issa of koisha or cutting off, but there's still an issa of having hana from the nois sukkah. But one thing we see from the Sefer Chassidim, nois sukkah should bring kedusha sukkah, not isurim. Now why do I say this? I saw the Matei Ephraim in Tafreish Chafei, Sif Chavches, and I think it's a mitzvah lefaris, especially Erev Yom Tiv. He says, even though you spend so much koiches and time building the sukkah, it's a good idea, Erev Sukkot, before the Zman, a few minutes before the Zman, go out in the sukkah and inspect it, check it. If anything is wrong, im loy achshav emasai, fix it. In other words, make sure that everything is the way it should be before Yom Tov. You'll ask me, what are you worried about? What could go wrong in a sukkah? The answer is, everything could go wrong. The lights are not on, the schach flew off, you can't even sit in the sukkah, the noise sukkah fell off already. I mean, over the years, I've seen everything go wrong. So instead of hoping that everything is good, and when you come to sukkahs, and you see that this is wrong and that is wrong, and the whole sukkah you're spending koching, and usually it's mitztamik virala, if you know what I mean. So instead of that, just go a few minutes before, check it, make sure the lights are plugged in, make sure the timer is good, whatever it is, but make sure everything is, so the Yom Tiv could be a Yom Tiv like the way the Matei Ephraim says, V'hi b'shalom sukkah, v'simcha b'ma'oina, you'll have a simcha diki Yom Tiv, and a shalom diki Yom Tiv. You won't be angry at the children who didn't do this or didn't do that. Make sure it's good, and then you're secure. I saw Grada a lot of tshuvas discussing what to us seems to be an interesting question about hanging gedolim pictures in a sukkah. Now, what's the shaila? It's a wonderful chinuch. So, Lamaisa, there are those that were mafakbek about hanging gedolim pictures any place. So you do with the Yares Dvash, Rabbi Yonis is quoted in the Pischei Tshuva Yeridea, Kuf Mem Aleph Zayin, that says that when the picture of a gadol hanging, it's a ruach ra on the picture. And the emphasis, there are some Bali Halacha, Divrei Malkiel, and Chela Gimel, Simon and Ches. He says maybe it's an Issa of Tzuras Adam. So someone asked Rav Yosef Chaim Zonneveld and Salmas Chaim and Reish Nun Zayin, so maybe it's not a great idea to put up Gedolim pictures in the Sukkah. So his answer was so beautiful. He says, Teishvu ke'ein teduru. If in your house you have pictures, obviously not worrying about Ruach Ra. So what's your problem on Sukkahs? But if Taka during the year you're worrying about Ruach Ra, so don't bring Ruach Ra into the Sukkah. But I think the minig is to be makel. Grada, I saw something interesting. The Stiple himself was makbid, they shouldn't take pictures of him. But in his Sukkah, he put up Gedolim pictures. In fact, in the Archas Rabbeinu, in Beis Reish Chavalef, he had a Kpeda, the order of Gedolim. You look there, you'll see who the Stiple was machshav. Exact order, who goes first, second, third. So obviously, for himself, he was makbid, but for children and grandchildren, that's a Gavaldige Chinuch. I think it's done today in a very nice way. So basically, if you do it in your house, you could do it in the Sukkah. Move to the other side of the spectrum, a question that people ask, they buy these various Noi Sukkah officially, but they really were made for the Goyish Chaga, for the Goyish holiday. Is there any problem of bringing in lights or other decoration that really made for non-holy purposes? So the emphasis is, what was used for Avodah Zarah is a serious issa of Takrivas Avodah Zarah. In Yeridei, Kuflan, Betes, Yud Gimel, even Neiros that were used for Avodah Zarah, Asabana. That was the whole tumult about the sheitel. It was used for Avodah Zarah. But the emphasis is that the Noi Sukkah, that really, even if they were made for the Goyish Chagis, were never used yet for the Goyish Chag. Maybe they were manufactured for that. Zokt Ravozna Chelik Beis Nun Zayin. At worst, it's Hazmana, and Hazmana Lav Milsei. He quotes Chsam Soifa and then Beis that were Makel. So if it was used for Avodah Zarah, it's an Issa Deraisa. But if it was just designed for Avodah Zarah, then there is no Issa. Grada, many of these are not really Avodah Zarah. I Grada once mentioned this in my shir. I said, Santa Claus, pardon me for mentioning it, but I think is a money-making proposition. It has nothing to do with the Chag. So someone told me afterwards, I was a good Mechavin. He says that was a design of Coca-Cola Company. They wanted to sell soda during the winter. During the summer it's easy, but in the winter, how do you sell it? So they have a patent, they have a copyright on that Gavra. I don't say his name again, Bismedjish. And he says, there's nothing to do with Avodah Zarah. He said, if I want, I'll give you the Mar Mekaymis. He said, no, I don't need Mar Mekaymis for that. But he had exactly, the details. Now, why do I say this? Because it comes the end of the year, the Goyish year, and all the soda, Coca-Cola you buy, has a picture of Oisai Gavra. And it's sometimes very uncomfortable in a shul and a kiddush that all you see is a nishkanyivat of board, if you know what I mean. So it's very distasteful, but you should know it's not really a problem. It's basically kulai, the green dollar, like they say in America. I did see Rav Yashiv in Chavdal Tes and Isha Yisrael says it's mechur hadav to have something that was made for Avodah Zarah in a sukkah. It's distasteful. Probably that's a lashon nekiyah. Mechur is much worse. So basically, if you know this was made for Avodah Zarah, then enechanami, stay away from it. If it was just made to decorate, to make money, so the fact that it's holiday use is really nothing. I hope sometimes there are Yidden that commission the production of these things, so the Azmana was l'shem a mitzvah, so it will be less of an issue. What's interesting, what's a big tumult in the Paiskim, some Noi Sukkah might not be kosher Noi Sukkah. You're wondering? Let me explain. The Magen Avram, Bayos, and Tofreish, Lam, Betches, Yivkot, and Tes, Oysen Achakukim, Pasuk, Basukas Teishvu, Ala Dalas, if they put Noi Sukkah by carving out psukim on a gourd, on a vegetable, La Yafa Oysen, they don't do right, and he sends it to Yeridei Reish Pei Gimel in the Taz, Yivkot, and Gimel. So when the Magen Avraham says Ayin Sham, Mitzvah L'Shmoy Divrei Chachamim, we look it up. What does it say in Yeridei Reish Pei Gimel in the Taz? The Mechaba in Reish Pei Gimel says Osel Lirkaim Psukim Betalis. Today we have on a talis, some have lettering, they have the nusach of the bracha, which is okay. But it seems some talisais had the pasuk. Maybe Gedilim Taslach, whatever the pasuk, they have a pasuk written on the talis. And the Mechaber says you're not allowed to write a pasuk on a talis. Why? Zok the Taz is if caught in Gimel, you're only allowed to write the whole Torah, or at least a whole Chumash. But to write one pasuk is awesome. That's the Machaba in Reish Pei Gimel in Yerideyah. Zok the Taz, Zok the Magen Avram, Oy Bazoi, to write a pasuk on Noi Sukkah is an Issa based on a Machaba. And at the emphasis I saw in the Chazay Nevagya on Metzadik Beis, he has a whole discussion. What's the heta to print the Pita Maktaris today? Is very popular. You're not allowed to print just a few psukim. It has to be either a ganze chumash or the whole Torah. So ayin shem. But there's definitely an issa of printing just a pasuk, a random psukim. Then the Taz says another cheshbon, that the pasuk might come lidei bizoyin, because a talis, tzitzis, you like go into the bathroom with it, there's no chiyuv shemis, so you might end up throwing out the talis. So you mavazer a pasuk. So we see there are two problems in printing a pasuk. One, you're not allowed to print the pasuk, and also the bizoyin. And this Magen Avram is saying the same is true with Noy Sukkah. You have a pasuk printed, it's an issa of a pasuk and an issa of bizoyin. And all the Gedolei HaPoskim, the Rav and Sif Chaf, the Mishnah Berurah and Sif Katan Chav Daled, Aruch HaShulchan and Sif Yud Beis, all quote this Magen Avram Halacha. And now the question is, you go into a sukkah, and many of the Noy Sukkah have psukim. Basukkah's Teishu, V'samachti B'chagecha, whatever it is. Someone told me he sent his child to buy Noy Sukkah that have no psukim in it. And the child came home empty-handed. There's no Noy Sukkah without psukim. The question is, if the Gedolei HaPoskim asa, why do we have psukim on it? So, it's pashit that Noy Sukkah that is a violation of an Issa is not Noy Sukkah. We saw the Sefer Chassidim that says that. So the answer is, Enechanami. According to the Taz, the Noy Sukkah are inappropriate. But the Shach of Anort and Yerideyah says the Issa of writing psukim is in my kamidei bezoyim. What about the Issa of printing a random pasuk? Nispashet haminig lahakol. Dr. Shach, the minig is to make varaya. In every yeshiva, they print psukim to give out to the children. Eis lashem. We're not makbid in printing psukim. The Issa is, it comes with a bezoyin, that yes. But we're not makbid in printing psukim. But now, we still have a problem. So, like the Shach, there's no Issa printing psukim. What about the bezoyin? Comes again, the Bikura Yankov, that's the Aruch HaNer and the Sefer on Aruch Chaim, and it's a Pashut Devar. The source is the Magen Avram that printed psukim not on paper, they printed it into a dalas, into a gourd. No, it doesn't last for long. It ends up being bezayin. But, says the Bikura Yankov in Sif Katan Yudches, if you print psukim on a paper, and you're going to take care of it, maybe there's no Issa bezayin. It's only on a dalas, like the Magen Avram says. And the truth is today that we laminate it, you're even more safe. So, in other words, like the Taz, our Noy Sukkah are wrong. But the Magen Avram is Mekel. Which is not a very good heta, because all the Poskim quote the Taz. Mishnah Berurah quotes the Taz, that it's an Issa printing psukim. Also, the Bikur Yankiv himself, in Tosis Bikurim, he says, I just was Malamet Chus. But better would be if you play around with the psukim, don't write a full pasuk. Basukais, leave out the saf. Teishvu, leave out the vav. Don't print a pasuk on the Noy Sukkah. So it's a little, disappointing that even the Mekel is machmir. Also, the Mishnah Berurah says this, and I saw the Guinness V'Rodim already says this. This that we're Mekel to print psukim is Eis Lashem, because you have to teach Torah. Who said you have to print Noy Sukkah to have psukim on it? Do something else. So this heta of the Taz versus the Shach is a very shvacha heta. But I saw this Rabbi Yashiv in Ashrei Ish Chav Daled Lamed Gimel, and Menissan Karelitz in Chut Hashani Perigud Siv Gimel. They say, which is l'chayr very mistavra and very meduyik. The issa is on writing or printing psukim. If you buy an already printed pasuk, who said there's an issa? Mr. Berurah says those that write the Sukkah's Teishu should not hang it up. So maybe the printer, the one that's making these nice Sukkah, I hope he's not here now, maybe he's not doing an Issa. But for me to buy it and put it up, what's the Issa? I wonder, what about Lifnei Iva? If we don't buy it, he doesn't make it. It's like you're not allowed to buy a stolen item from a guy because he's going to steal. There's Lifnei Iva. But I think we could say that if it's printed, you're allowed to put it up, and especially if you're careful not to come to bizayin, if it's laminated. You'll ask me, is it mahadrin min mahadrin no Sukkah? It's definitely not mahadrin min mahadrin. It's lacking. After you finish with no Sukkah, what do you do with it? Let's say you got ruined in the rain. Do you have to put it in shemus? Can you throw it out? So the emes is, it's not such a simple answer. We saw Medina Gemara, Af Sukkah Hashem. There's a chiyuv, there's a kedusha on nois on schach. Nois Sukkah is at least midrabanan has kedusha. Does that mean you have to put nois Sukkah in shemus? If that's the case, you certainly have to put schach in shemus. That's zichah deraisa, and no one puts schach in shemus. The answer is, what has kedusha is also to be mavazet. And that's why the Mishnah Berurah in the end of Sifkot and Chavdal says you're not allowed to step on schach or be mavazet the schach. Bezoyin is also, just like you're not allowed to be mavazet tzitzis. But there's no chiyuv shemus on even schach and kolshkein on nois sukkah. So the eighth would be, if you have nois sukkah that you can't use, put it in a bag, leave it with the garbage, and the non-Jewish garbage man will do what he has to do with it. To throw it in the garbage together with the cholent bones and the chicken bones or the diapers is a bezoyin. And I should mention, there's a beautiful story of Shmelke Selisha, wanted to learn by the Chassam Sofer. And he came for the Feher for the winter's man after Sukkot. He came with a chav of his, who was a bigger lamdan than him. So Shmelke was a pikeach. He said, you know what, you go for the Feher first. If he doesn't take you, he's not going to take me. So I'm not going to even go. So sure enough, the friend went, and the Chassam Sofer says, I have no room, I can't take you, find a different yeshiva. So Shmelke turned around and started walking out. And the Chassam Sofer says, come for a Feher. So he goes, no. And he said, come. And he took him. So Shmelke Selisha asked him, Rebbe, he's better than me. Why me, not him? He goes, you're right, he's better than you. But when he came to take a Feher, it was right after Sukkot, he stepped on schach, getting to my office. A bacher that steps on schach has no place in my yeshiva. So you see a sensitivity, even though there's no issa per se, but if you realize it has kedusha, we have to treat it with kedusha. Our old minig, before Yom Tov, we give the olam a little tein l'chacham v'yech kamoid, we give some food for thought, some table talk. I'd like to leave you with a few beautiful showers. Each one could be a discussion for itself. Tein l'chacham v'yech kamoid. Question number 1. Someone remembered to buy nois sukkah, but one problem, he forgot to put it up before Yom Tov. And he's embarrassed, and his shalom bayis is a little shaky. No nois sukkah. So he has the following shayla he'll ask you. Can I go on Yom Tov and put up nois sukkah? Now I'm talking about there's no issa mitzad hilchas Yom Tov, but most of our opinion, he's just going to lean it against the wall or slip it into a case, or he's going to put with Velcro. He's not going to be moisiv. He's not going to tape it on. No isurei Shabbos or Yom Tov. But you'll say, even so, we just learned the whole sugya. Nois sukkah is muktzah. How could you even touch the nois sukkah? Not so fast. When is nois sukkah muktzah? If you put it up before Yom Tov, it was chalash kedusha on the nois sukkah. It's asa for the 9 days of Yom Tov. But nois sukkah you didn't put up. Why is it muktzah? It's not eitzim vavonim. It's fully functional nois sukkah. It makes a lot of sense that if you have leftover nois that you didn't put up before Yom Tov, you're allowed to move it on Yom Tov. You're allowed to show it off. Why is it muktzah? When it was put up, it was asabana. That's why it's muktzah. And that's why it makes sense that if there's no isurei Shabbos or Yom Tov involved, you're allowed to pick up nois sukkah and put it in a place that it will be nois sukkah. Then I saw in the Sefer Mekadesh Yisrael Siman Kuf Chav Beis, he has a Mordika Einfall, and that's my Tein L'Chacham. He says, if you put it up, then it becomes asabana. So maybe you can't put it up als the issa of Mavato Klimei Chanei. You're taking a fully functional no, you're making it asa. But he says it's not so pashut. When is there an issa of muktzachal? Bein Hashmashis. So until Bein Hashmashis is not muktzah. It's taka asa b'hana, but it's not a chal shem muktzah. So now you're doing without the yissa. So it comes out that it would be gans yitachan, you're allowed to put up noy sukkah on Yom Tiv or Shabbos. Now, zicha you're allowed to move the noy sukkah. To put it up, we have this issue as far as mevat kli mechanai, so until further notice, make sure you put it up before Yom Tiv, you have no shayla. Question number 2, a very common question. There are noy sukkah, probably in every sukkah, that are placed in a place that is a puzzle part of the sukkah. What I mean puzzle means puzzle l'chol hadays. For example, some sukkahs, they have the overhang, the roof, so the women sit there, but that part of the sukkah is puzzle mamish. Or, I'll give you a better example, a doif and akuma area, or a better example even, you put noy sukkah on the outside door. Now, the outside door is not in a kosher part of the sukkah. Noy sukkah that were placed in a puzzle part of the sukkah is that asa, bahana, and tiltal on Shabbos or Yom Tov. So you would say, why not? Zil basatayim, it's noy sukkah. But I'll tell you why. The halacha is klar. If you built the sukkah that was nishkalungen, it was a puzzle of sukkah. But you put up noy sukkah already, the Rav says, I'm sorry, better luck next time. This sukkah is puzzle. So if the sukkah is puzzle, the noy sukkah is not awesome. It's only noy sukkah to a sukkah. So maybe we'll say in a puzzle place, it's like putting schach in a puzzle of sukkah. But there's a big chilik. Why? If it's in a puzzle of sukkah, it was never chal Hashem noy sukkah. But the sukkah that you had all these years on the puzzle place, wasn't it noy sukkah? Doesn't it make the sukkah nice? The women sit there, they have their own noy sukkah, they feel very chashiv. If the issa is noy sukkah, this is noy sukkah. I puzzle a sukkah because it was never a sukkah. So I'll tell you in it santizach. The Pnei Yeshua in Sukkah Daf Yud says this very shaila that taka the noy sukkah is asa. It's a beferish Gemara. Which Gemara? Our Gemara that we began with. Sichecha kil chasa. Then the noy sukkah is asa. No, if this sukkah is kasha basically. So even though part of it's on the door or on the part of its puzzle, but if the sukkah is kasha, then the noy sukkah is asa bano. So we have our Gemara to this very shaila. Yet the Imrei Emes quoted in Shevet HaKasi in Vav Reish Lamed Hey, whose medayik punkt fakert. Sichach kil chasa indicates that the entire sukkah is kasha. But if you put it in a puzzle place, so that schach is okay, that noy sukkah is okay, and the rest of it is awesome. So discuss which diyik is right. But both are medayik from the very same word, kil chasa. Next question, sounds like an interesting question, but it's a good shayla. Someone, Matzah Yom Kippur, couldn't schlep up the walls. He wanted to put up the sukkah, Matzah Yom Kippur. He had an idea. He'll start building the sukkah by putting up the noy sukkah on the wall of his house. And his house, the wall of his house is one of the walls of the sukkah. So he put up noy sukkah on the wall of his house, and then the children came home and they built the rest of the sukkah. Then he had a shayla, is that noy sukkah considered noy sukkah? You're wondering, what's the shayla? No. Maybe, Zakti Pnei Yeshua, since the Gemara's Lashon is Sichach Kil Chasa Ve'itra with all the Noy Sukkah, maybe it's only Noy Sukkah if the Sukkah was Kasha. Sichach Chasa, and then you put up Noy Sukkah. But if you put up on a wall, and then you built the Sukkah, or you had Noy Sukkah on the wall of the Sukkah from last year, you put away in the garage, that noy sukkah is not noy sukkah. Now this is a chiddush because it's not mistavra. And the Pnei Yeshua himself says v'tzorach iyan, and the Aruch HaShulchan says in Tofreish Chavtes La Medala that it's takanat, no difference, because here I could understand. There's no din of tasav leimin asa by noy. As long as it's functioning on a kosher sukkah, that noy sukkah is asa b'hanor. Next question. In middle of Yom Tiv, someone realized that a sukkah was puzzle. Puzzle from the moment he started to build it. It was never kosher. Rachmana litzlan. The Rav says, I'm sorry, this is puzzle, I feel the b'di'evet. Is at least the noy sukkah mutter to touch, to move? So we'll say, That's the Beferish Gemara. Sicha kilchasa, and this is not kilchasa. But here we see an interesting chiddush. It's possible, and this is Lachari, Pri Megadim says this in Rosh Yosef, in Shabbos Daf Chav Beis, in our Gemara, that taka, it's not asabana, but you can't move it until after Yom Tiv. What does that mean? The issa of muktzah is because of the issa of hana. Zok the Rosh Yosef, enechanami, it's not asabana. But since the Ma'aser and Ben Hashmashis came, you thought it was a sukkah, you were maktzah das from it, it's muktzah als the regular muktzah. Als the sukkah Hashem is not asa, but it's asa als the muktzah midaitoi. So it comes out you could have enough from it, but you can't move it. But so Yom Tiv, you could take of all the noi and enjoy it gesundheit. Next question, an interesting question. A Eretz Yisrael dika, one of your children or a guest, comes to your house on Simchas Torah. He goes into your sukkah and there's the most beautiful, appetizing, appealing pomegranate hanging in the sukkah. He decides when no one's looking, he takes it down, he makes a bar priya. After all, for him, it's ruchag basically. He's playing Yom Tov, but no one's looking. And he ate the pomegranate and it was delicious. Then he tells you, by the way, remember that noise sukkah is no longer. And you speak, what do you mean? It's asa all 9 days. He says, well, I'll tell you after Yom Tov, but it's not a problem. The question is he right or not. Noise sukkah, the Shulchan Aruch says, is asa the 9 days. But for him, it's after Yom Tiv. So Rabbi Zalman is quoted in Halacha Shleima and other places that he said that's correct. For him, it's after Yom Tiv. How can something be asa sukkahs if it's always sukkahs? But I saw in the Sefer Yom Tiv Sheni Kol Chasei, quoting Rabbi Yashiv, and in this Amud Reish Sad Gimel, I think it's very mistavra. The issa of Hana is not totally in the one that's eating it, it's totally in the one that was kaveh it. And since the Ben Chutz La'aretz put it up for the Yom Tiv, it's asa for 9 days. So now here's where I come into the picture. Fine, it's asa for the 9 days. But how can it be asa for a Ben Eretz Yisrael if it's Ais Yom Tiv? So I think the teretz has to be, he could move it, taka. There's no issa of tiltul muktzah, but here's an issa of hana. So it comes out a very big chiddush that he can't eat it, even though it's isuchag, but moving it is mutter. So here we see a spalt in the issa. I saw the Aruch Haner has a shayla. If you have muktzah, you have noy sukkah that you can't see. You put it in a jar that's opaque, that you can't see through. So is that considered noy sukkah because no one's really enjoying it, you can't see it? So he says, Ken Zayin, this is a Beferish Gemara. The Gemara says they hung up wine. How do you hang up wine? So Rashi says they put it in a jar. There's no halacha dafka in a see-through jar. It seems that the noy sukkah is not necessarily what you see, it's what brings kedusha to the sukkah. So even if you don't see it, that would be noy sukkah. Question. Someone asked me the shayla, not regarding sukkahs, but he has in his house a tree of orla. Good, luscious, edible fruit that is asa b'hana. Can he hang up orla fruit as noy sukkah? You're wondering, what's the shayla? Orla is asa b'hana. Maybe, in this case, he's having enough in the sukkah, putting it into the sukkah. So the Paiskim say, regarding this, will say, mitzvah is lav lahanis nitnu. It's not a direct hana, and if that's the case, it's mutter. Now, even though we find in Shulchan Aruch you're not allowed to smell reach avodah zarah, that's a more direct hana. But just looking at it, it's in the sukkah, that would be mutter. Where this is an important question is in Eretz Yisrael, once in 7 years, they have Perish Shvius. Perish Shvius is just the opposite. La'achla v'loy lahefse. You're not allowed to ruin it, you're allowed to eat it. So in every 7 years, there's an interesting shayla. Can you hang up Perish Shvius, a nice pomegranate, as noy sukkah? So you're wondering, what's the problem? A carrot is mutter b'hana. You're allowed to eat it. But the problem is, since for the days of Sukkot, you're not allowed to eat it, maybe it's a violation. La'achla v'loy lahefsid. You're making it asa b'hana for the 8 days. So the Paiskim say that it's only a temporary issa. It's not a real hefsid, and therefore it's mutter. So that's an interesting chap that it's asa b'hana for the 8 days, but it's not lahefsid. If someone put up someone else's beautiful noy sukkah without asking rishus, and the Bailam starts shrieking, what you do, it's mine, don't. The Pais can say that's not Asab Hana. Because to make Noy Sukkah, you have to be the Bailam. It's a gather like Muktzah, you have to be the Bailam. Achra in Chav, let me leave you with a beautiful Shaila Lamaisa. Someone came to his friend's Sukkah on Chol HaMoyed, and he saw what he didn't have and needed desperately. He saw a kosher esrig. Nebuch, this Yid was from a derful. He had no kosher esrig. So he pleaded with the Baal HaSukkah, please give me your esrig. I don't have it. My whole city doesn't have an esrig. This is the question they asked to the Heilig Chassam Sofer in Archaim Kuf Bey Dalet. Can he take off what he put up as Noi Sukkah, and he had other esrigim. He put it up the Shem Noi, it became Asa B'Hana, Sukkah Hashem. Can you take it off to give another Yid? So the Chassam Sofer says it's mutter for 4 reasons. Mitzvah's lav lahanis nitnu, so the person could use it for a mitzvah. The only is bezoyin mitzvah. You're being mavaza the estig by using it for your own purposes. But here he's using it for a mitzvah, it's not a bezoyin. Also, the issa is you're demoting kedushas noi. Malam b'kodesh v'loy merid. But this is ma'il, you're doing a mitzvah of dalad minim. And therefore, he says, just like you're allowed to eat, you have nothing else to do, nothing else to eat, you're allowed to give it to that Yid. Now, to us, this sounds great, but it's not so pashut. Zok de machne chayim and gimel mem tes. First of all, you're doing an issa, so he could do a mitzvah. Ein oimel ad mechatei b'shvil sheyiz kechavercha. That's not a mitzvah. For him, it's a mitzvah, not for you. I mitzvah is lav lahanis nitnu. But now, on the rest of Yom, there's only an issa, a mitzvah d'Rabbanan, and by d'Rabbanan we don't say mitzvah lahanis nitnu. You'll say, the third time of the Chassam Sofer, you're using it for a mitzvah. Madlikin miner l'ner is mutter. And this is a starke taina. Zog de machnichayin, you're allowed to use it for miner l'ner for the same mitzvah. But to take Noi Sukkah and use it for a different mitzvah, esrig, that's not a heta of madlikin miner, that's a different mitzvah. But listen, there's the punchline. Ma'alin b'kodesh loy marid, and here you're being ma'alin. Zog de machnichayin, you have to machnichayin to say this. Who told you that's not Maridin? This is Kadosh LaHashem. This has Kedusha to it. You're giving him to an estrig, that's a mitzvah d'Rabbanan. But this has Kedusha, that's sourced in a Deraisa. So that's part of the Greisa third that you could focus on Yom Tiv, but the Ikki is we have a Sukkah coming, B'Kedusha. We should be Zaycha to a Simchas Yom Tiv, a good Yom Tiv to you all. Yeah. Let them walk. 1 second.
With Shem English, I'd like to thank Rabbi Smith for the wonderful share. I'd like to wish everybody a Chag Sameach, a Felige Yom Tov, Chag Simcha for the whole year. Sikum. Rabbi said the Shir Chalamoyed in Miat Hashem, the first year of Rabbi Smith is 12 o'clock. Take the schedule of Yom Tov Chalamoyed. Come back 3 times a day, whichever neighborhood you are. You have Shurim all over. And also bring your kids to Yeshivas Chalamoyed. And every neighborhood is Yeshivas Chalamoyed. Here you could come in the morning. Hundreds of kids with their fathers come. We'll have more room upstairs if there's no room in the Smedrish. Every kid will get a prize every day Chalamoyed. There'll be a tremendous Simcha. And the schools alle sollen geholfen werden. Aber kennen sein Besimcha, sein Besimcha, ganz Jahr. Fertig Yom Tov. Everybody can leave. Great Sefer Yom Tov. Rabbi Smith doesn't want you to stay.
Making a sikum. Ready? Okay, just a short sum what we learned today. As Hashem, we saw that the source of Noi Sukkah is the mitzvah of Teishu Kein Teduru, but it's really the kiyum of the mitzvahs at Keli V'Anveyu. The Rashba says that the reason for Noi Sukkah is Lahanim Yeshivasai. The Seder Yom says it shows that we're doing mitzvahs b'simcha. So definitely the Noi Sukkah has great importance. I can't say it's a kiyum deraisa, maybe it is God, but definitely it enhances the Yeshiva Sukkah, and presumably it might be a kiyum of the mitzvahs at Keli V'Anveyu. To the extent that we saw that there's an issa of shimush of using Noi Sukkah, Shaloi L'Shem Mitzvah, there's a pasuk Sukkah L'Hashem, there's Kedusha Chal on the Sukkah. You treat the Sukkah b'Kedusha, we don't talk things that don't belong in the Sukkah, we don't bring things in the Sukkah that don't belong there. Noi, since they're Asa B'Hana, it's Muktzah, and you can't move them on Shabbos or Yom Tiv. If you attach a light to the sukkah door, or any noi to the sukkah door, you're allowed to open the door, it's not a bosses, and it's moving tiltul minatzad. Yom Tiv, there's also an issa muktzah, you can't move noi sukkah, or a schach for that matter. The only heta is that if it interferes with eichel nefesh, and there's no other choice, you're allowed to move the noi sukkah, l'tzorich eichel nefesh. Better would be if you find a different alternative, if you shake off the noi sukkah, you tilt the table. But if a question is no other alternative, you're allowed to move the Noy Sukkah on Yom Tiv, al Tzeichel Nefesh, as opposed to Shabbos. Tiltul begufay is mutta, any muktzah, even moving the Noy Sukkah for the benefit of the muktzah. Tiltul begufay, any part of the body besides the hand. Cholamoid, you're allowed to move Noy Sukkah, you're allowed to reattach it, you're allowed to put back schach on Cholamoid. The only is removing Noy Sukkah and not putting it back. If the Noy Sukkah fell off on Cholamoid, Mi'ikadin is no chiyuv to reattach it. The only is to taking off Noy Sukkah. You're allowed to take off from one sukkah to put it on a different sukkah. The mitzvah of Noy Sukkah is lav daf what you do in your dining room. It's what you do to enhance yeshiva sukkah. People put up zayin minim, people put up oil, other things. People put up oil in the sukkah and use it on Chanukah. There's a lot of kedusha going on in the sukkah. One should not cause an issa by putting up Noy Sukkah if the children will eat it. We said gedolim pictures are very appropriate for a sukkah. Noy Sukkah that were made for a goyish chaga, it's only hazmana lav milsi. Some call it mechur adava, so try to get tasteful Noy Sukkah. But it's kedai to avoid having Noy Sukkah that have full psukim in it. If it's protected, if it's laminated, kfanogu lahakol, even though the paiskim are not happy with it, but if it's laminated, there's a makom lahakol. There's no chi of shemis on Noy Sukkah, but don't throw it in the garbage with the regular garbage. You could put it in a bag separately, like you do with schach. And as we said, the early Simchas Yom Tov is, it comes out l'chayr, you're allowed to attach Noy Sukkah on Shabbos or Yom Tov, as long as you don't do any Isurei Shabbos. Schach, Noy Sukkah in a mokem that's posel a sukkah l'chol hadayis is still considered Noy Sukkah. Most say, as long as the sukkah is kosher, the Noy Sukkah is chal. Attaching Noy and then built the sukkah is still Noy Sukkah. That's not a diyak sicha kilchasa. If the sukkah was never kosher, then the Noy Sukkah is not asaba no, but it's muktzah until after Yom Tov. A Ben Eretz Yisrael on Simchas Torah could move Noy Sukkah, but should not eat the Noy Sukkah. Noy that's in an opaque jar is still Noy. Orla and Shvius can be used for Noy Sukkah. And as we said, if someone put up Noy Sukkah Shalei B'Shus, it's not chal. And taking off an estrig to use on Yom Tiv, on Chol HaMoyed, the Chassam Sofer was makel, others were machmir, but the Nachne Chaim said, if the Rebbe, the Chassam Sofer was makel, you're allowed to be makel, but that's only on Chol HaMoyed Yom Tiv, it's muktzah and should not be removed. Okay. Amen. 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 Schrijf. Jante is gezondheid. Zie je gezondheid. Thank you. That's good. You have a car? You going home? Yeah. Go to travel out. Okay.